Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Franchise Unfiltered podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the sexiest franchises in all of franchising. I have the pleasure of being joined by Jim Foley, who is the brand president of Zoom Drain. Jim, welcome.
Hey, Wes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about drains and clearing drains. And I've actually got a funny story that I can tie into this, something that happened in our house recently. But yeah, man, glad to have you here. And everyone in my audience that listens to this show knows that I love these types of businesses because they are not even close to being on most people's radar. It's like the furthest thing from what most people kind of initially imagine when they think about a franchise. And so I'm excited to spotlight Zoom Drain with you here today. So in that vein, maybe just kind of kick us off, give us the 30,000 foot view. What is Zoom Drain? What do your franchisees do? Who are their customers? And then we'll take it from there.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a pretty blanket statement here, Wes. It's everybody has drains, homes, apartment buildings, businesses, office buildings, whatever it is. There's drains everywhere. So that's our market. Um, B2B and B2C is actually creates a nice portfolio of businesses. You're not locked into one or the other. And what
Mhm.
our franchises do is they go out and clean and service and do preventive maintenance on drain systems, drain and sewers, everything from where the clean water stops and the dirty water begins. That's where we take over. And the beauty of it, the simplicity of it is we stay in our lane. That's all we do. We don't complicate with additional services and additional inventories and hiring requirements. It's just drains, but we are the best at it. Fully armed with ServiceTitan technology, our techs are trained. They go out, they listen to the client, they provide three different options along a good, better, best,
Mhm.
and they explain to people, what's going on with their drains, and then they turn around and clear them. They can clear them, they can jet them, and if necessary, they can rehabilitate through trenchless services or do full excavations and do traditional replacements. So, lots of opportunities in this model and lots of need.
Yeah, it's unique, I think, in some ways because of all of that, where you have these multiple revenue streams, but you're also very specialized in that, you're not trying to, have all these add-on services. It's like anything related to drains we can handle. And that's I also love that it's B2B and B2C, right? I love these businesses that have the commercial component because that's where you see franchisees really be able to continue scaling their business and build an enterprise type business is once they can really start tapping into some of the commercial opportunity. And it's a valid point. Everyone has drains, right? Whether that's an apartment complex, a standalone house, any sort of a commercial building, we've all got drains. They all get clogged from time to time. But yeah, so in our house, just last week, my wife realized that she lost one of her diamond stud earrings.
Oh no.
So she's like driving, pulling out of the neighborhood, just happened to like touch her ear and realized that she didn't have her earring in, but she had it in the other ear. And so she comes home, uh, goes and looks in the bed, and she found the back of the earring laying like by the pillow in the bed. So
Hmm.
then she's like, okay, kind of retracing her. So she's like, well, it must have been there when I got out of bed this morning. She had taken a shower. So we're in the shower, walk in shower, looking for it. She's like convinced that it must have gone down the drain. Right. So in our house, we just built it a year ago. So I called my builder and was like, hey, man, uh, what should I do? Like, if this thing went down the drain, can we access the pipes to look for it? He's like, well, first thing, take off the drain cover. And then he's like, if you have a shop vac, see if you can just suck out whatever's kind of in the drain. And maybe if she just showered this morning, no one else used a shower, maybe you'll get it. So we tried all that, didn't find it. Had a plumber scheduled to come out, and then later that afternoon, I went to take a shower and I stepped on it. It was like in the bottom of the shower. We were
Lucky,
freaking
very
out, man. And
lucky.
yeah, we were going to be, very, very hopeful that someone that, knows drains was going to be able to help us find that thing. So fortunately, we didn't have to call anyone out, but I imagine some of your Zoom Drain franchisees have stories where they've been able to help their customers recover some sort of a valuable item that went down the drain.
I'm sure there's lots of cases. And we also have the satisfaction, the technicians have the satisfaction that every day they're going home solving people's problems two or three, four, five, six times a day. Very
Yeah,
fulfilling because when we
yeah,
engage with clients, it's typically not a happy time for them. If you woke
sure.
up and your shower's backing up with sewage, not a great thing. So,
Yeah, not a great start to the day. And yeah, it's a good point. They probably do have a very rewarding job being able to come in and they can probably see the relief all over their customers' faces when they're able to come in and solve that. And that's something I don't think people think a lot about when they are considering the type of business to get into. They don't I know they don't spend enough time, really looking at, okay, what type of employees or team members am I going to need in this business, and what implications is that going to have on, my day to day as the business owner. But take that even a step further. Not only what type of people do I need, but what is their day to day going to be like, and is it something that's going to be more enjoyable and satisfying for them, or is it something where they're going to be miserable, or it's going to be a high level of stress, in which case turnover may be more of an issue, or just motivation may be more of an issue. So I think that's a really valid point. I've seen that firsthand in the two different franchises my wife and I had owned. One, we come in and do a very custom home improvement project. It's something our clients are excited about and looking forward to. And our installers have the best part of it because they're the ones that get to be there with the client when they see the finished result.
yeah.
And it's very satisfying. They get a lot of, gratification of just being able to see how excited the customer is of their kind of handiwork, I guess. The other business we owned was an insulation business. You don't even see the product once it's done, right? People know they need insulation. They're not excited to pay to have it put in, though, right? So not nearly as gratifying as a job. Very hard work, very uncomfortable work, very different type of employee that we had in those two businesses. So kind of a tangent, but that's a good point that you bring up with the technicians and Zoom Drain.
Yeah, a couple of points to go back on when you were sharing your diamond earring recovery story. You mentioned the word plumber, and we do get a lot of questions. Do we do plumbing, or are we a plumber?
Mm-hmm.
Technically, you could say by definition we work with water flowing through pipes, so you could be a plumber that way. But we're not. We don't do plumbing in the sense that people think about traditional clean water plumbing. We actually work hand in hand with plumbers. That's our largest source of referrals. Because if you're a plumber, you would rather deal with clean water and have your master plumbers doing more billable work. So they'll
Yeah.
advertise that they'll do drains, but it's not their first choice. So
Rather outsource the shit work, pun intended.
literally, yeah. But we provide a 10% referral, and there are a lot of monthly checks going out to the plumber. So it's a very symbiotic relationship.
I
And then
bet.
a little more on the techs. We mapped out the 10 stages of the ideal customer experience. So when we make a promise in our advertising, that's the Zoom Drain brand promise. When they call us, we're on stage. So what are the acts of the play? And we had identified from the time the phone rings till the time the follow-up marketing starts. We identified 10 steps. Those technicians are on stage, if you will, for 6 of those steps. So we place a tremendous amount of value in them. We fully respect it's a dirty trade business, which not a lot of people want to do. But the
Yeah.
techs rise to it. They're trained well. They solve a lot of people's problems in a given day. So it is very fulfilling. And throughout our system, I don't think this is an earnings claim by any stretch of the imagination, but we have many, many techs earning W-2 income over $100,000. So it's
Yeah. I can believe that. And, you hear more and more about people, opting to go more of that blue collar type of route because you can make such good money. And it's there's not a whole lot of people that are qualified. So I'm glad you brought up the point about the plumbing, because that's something I was going to ask you about. So, you guys are technically not plumbers. You work hand in hand with a lot of plumbers. So I think that's a very important point for the audience to understand is, number one, if you are opening a Zoom Drain franchise in your market, you are not competing with every existing plumber or plumbing company in the market. Those are all
No,
actual
not a,
potential
correct.
referral sources for you, right? And these types of relationships and these home service or trades type businesses are very, very common, right? Because you mentioned specialized earlier. I can totally see where the vast majority of plumbers would love to have a company like Zoom Drain that specializes in an area that probably a pretty high percentage of these plumbing jobs that they're involved in are going to require, but it's not necessarily the best use of their time, because they can handle the bigger picture plumbing, which is going to be bigger ticket for them. So can I assume, and maybe this is different state to state, but does that mean that your franchisees or their employees do not have to have an actual plumber's license?
Keywords there were state to state,
Yeah,
municipality to
yeah,
municipality. The
right.
workaround, common industry workaround, all legit, all above board, is you hire what's known as a qualifier, and there's different rules
Yep,
for a qualifying plumber. And
yep,
the average monthly expense, if you Googled it for a qualifying plumber, is $1,500 a month. So you put that plumber technically on your payroll. In some states, they can serve multiple businesses. In some states, they have to choose one. But
yep,
they're the license that then, if you need to do excavation work or dig or anything like that, that's the plumber license that's used to pull the permit. And a lot of the times, the
yep.
qualifier takes care of that for you, so it works well. It's
Yeah, and that's common with a lot of these licensing and totally above board. And nowadays you have a lot of, whether it's plumbers or general contractors or whatever the case is, they know there's opportunity for them to make some additional income, and so they're looking for these types of opportunities, right? And it's even similar to, like, real estate agents, right, where someone will go and wow, what is the terminology that they use, but hang their license, or go under someone else's brokerage until they have enough experience of their own to go out on their own. So
very
um,
similar, very similar.
that's
Yeah.
outside of the qualifier. Do your technicians need any specific experience? I know you mentioned training. Like, if I'm a Zoom Drain franchisee, do I need to go out and find technicians that already have experience working with drains, or am I really more hiring based on characteristics, personality? Are they going to be a good culture fit, and then we can train them on the actual job that we need them to do?
It's the latter. We
Yeah,
prefer, and there's examples all over the place of hiring somebody that was a cashier yesterday. We bring them in, and one of the things that's very appealing to the trades in our situation is we bring them in as apprentice. They have a clear career path that is driven
yeah,
by them. So they can decide to meet all the qualifications and advance to technician, then to lead technician, then to supervising technician, not at our pace, but at theirs. So if they fulfill it, there's enough demand that most of our franchise owners will look at those employees and go, "You prove to me you can do it. I'll get the truck for you." That's the goal for the technician. But it's bankable. Our founder, Jim Crinitti, former Air Force gentleman, he has SOP'd this business out the wazoo, and this career path for the technicians is the spine of the whole thing. It's
yeah.
those techs are so important to us. They really are.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes total sense. And, like, even earlier when you were listing out the 10, kind of phases of a customer life cycle, I forget exactly how you referred to it, but that thought was going through my mind. I'm like, that's very detailed. Like, that's very systemized. And then the fact that the technicians are involved in 6 of those 10 steps really highlights the fact that they're critical to all of this. And look, I don't care what the business is. The hardest part of any business, unless you're like a solopreneur, and still arguably then finding and keeping good people, right? So, the fact that you have this career path that you can show someone that you're bringing in as an apprentice, there's great earning potential. They can learn a skill that they can take with them for the rest of their lives, potentially. And this is probably not what the franchisees want to hear, but potentially even a skill that they could at some point down the road take to start their own business.
Sure.
But that's going to be attractive to a lot of people, and that's going to really help with retention. And I think that's the bigger challenge. It's one thing to find people, get them on board, but especially the people that are really good. How do you retain them? How do you keep them around, and how do you keep them motivated to keep leveling up their game as well? We'll get right back to the episode in just a minute, but if you've been considering business ownership, if you're already a business owner looking to expand and you're curious about franchising, I'd love to connect with you, answer any initial questions that you have, talk about a specific franchise, and detail the exact process that I use and have taken hundreds of people through to help them understand franchise ownership, find the right franchise for them, and conduct the necessary due diligence. Click the link in the show notes if you'd like to schedule a free, no obligation strategy call. I look forward to talking with you. And now back to the episode.
Yeah. So going back to your question, the initial part of it, we would rather have the raw lump of clay and train them in the zoom drain way. And it's proven time and time again that's the way it goes. On the tenure issue, which you were talking about in terms of turnover, the Philadelphia operation is our mothership. That's the one Jim opened 30 years ago. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year.
Wow.
We have 16 trucks going out in the Philadelphia market every single day, solving people's problems, cleaning drains. Of the probably 25 to 28 people on that technician team, because there's sometimes one or two guys on a truck, or we also do 24-hour services, the average tenure in that group is 6.2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, think of that. So turnover is low compared to other trade businesses. Because we like those raw lumps of clay, the acquisition cost of that employee is also brought down, and you build them up. And then the compensation plans that we have fully mapped out are based on performance. There's base pay, but the ones that perform make, like I said, those six figures. So it's a nice
I love
part
that.
of our
Yeah.
business model.
I love any sort of a performance, even if it's not the entire compensation, but if there's a performance component to it. Because then what it does, it gets all your people out in the field. These technicians, we've already established how critical they are to this business. It gets them thinking more like an owner, right, and not just thinking like an employee. So they're not just milking the clock and doing as little as possible for as long as possible. There's real incentive to go out and solve these problems for the clients, do best by the client, but also be as productive as possible.
Yeah, it's not. We don't overcomplicate it. Like I mentioned earlier, we're on ServiceTitan, so the technicians at any point in time can see their performance daily, year to date, week to date, month to date, whatever they want to do, right within that ServiceTitan window. It's a great motivator. It's goal setting at its simplest level, and the three primary measurements, as you can imagine: number of leads, conversion rate, and average job size. And that's the common language that everybody moves these businesses forward with.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Going back to the Philadelphia location as the example, I think you said 16 trucks going out. Is it typically one technician per truck, or do you need multiple technicians per truck? What does that typically look like?
It's one. It's one.
Okay.
Because of franchise development and other training opportunities, cross training opportunities, the other seat is often filled with ride-alongs. And our candidates, when they come out for confirmation day, it is a part of the. It's actually the first part of confirmation day. It's 2 days. We put them on a truck, and boy, talk about people that come back charged up. That is our biggest selling point. Go ride with the tech for a day, and they see it.
That's smart. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. How good is it to be able to get that firsthand experience? Because, look, with any of these franchises out there, you can do all the due diligence in the world, have a bunch of conversations with the franchisor, bunch of conversations with franchisees. there's still going to be nuance, right? Until you're actually in it and living it, you're never going to be able to fully understand and appreciate what it's like to own this business and to go build this business. So that step, though, that you guys do at your confirmation day, where they get to go ride on one of these trucks for a day, gets them a heck of a lot closer to having a realistic understanding of what, at least what the field aspect of the business is like. So I think that's a great step that you guys have in place. So from a scalability standpoint, this is all about, driving up demand so that, you start with one truck. I assume maybe some people start with multiple trucks, but and then it's just, keep adding trucks and technicians as the demand grows. And we don't have to talk any specific numbers, but I have a sense of what these types of franchises can typically generate on a per truck basis. So to hear 16 trucks on the road in the Philadelphia market, that tells me this has got big business potential for sure.
Yeah, Dylan, our rep at Franchise Fastlane, coined the term truck math. It's very predictable.
Truck math, yeah,
Track your
yeah,
leads. When you need to get another truck, get another truck. And it's not bring on another tech. Remember, it's bring on an apprentice, put him in. So everyone starts as an apprentice.
right, okay,
That's very
yeah,
important to the path, but it's very predictable. Once you can, get a consistent beat on lead flow, it's math.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that truck math. That sounds like something Dylan would come up with. So I want to talk about because you mentioned leads and conversion, right? So kind of walk me through, and maybe we start on like the B2C, the residential side, and then we can talk about the commercial side. But what does the sales process look like? I've already kind of established there's different ways of generating leads. Could be referred from a plumber, or it could be someone just Googles you or sees the truck and calls the number on the wrap. But regardless of how the lead comes in,
Hmm.
what does that process look like for assessing what needs to be done, figuring out the price, and then essentially winning the business? Is that all handled by these technicians as well, or is there another position where someone is coming in ahead of the technicians and essentially selling the job?
Yeah, let me start back on, and some of this answer will cross between B2B and B2C because a
Sure.
lot of it
Yeah.
does crossover. But
Sure.
we teach our franchise owners coming in, and we work with them and coach them and on building a marketing plan that has three primary elements, which are going to be traditional marketing, which is coming back, direct mail is coming back, whether
Yeah.
it's this, that, and the other thing. There's lots of traditional advertising you can do. We have some
These types
people.
of businesses, direct mail works.
Direct mail works. Billboards, when you get to a certain scale, work. So traditional marketing is a part of it. Digital, which is becoming less and less important, not as important as it was during COVID. So it's becoming less of a unknown black box, which is nice. And the most important thing is business development. What the folks are doing. That's primarily to drive the B2B business. But when a lead comes in, it goes into a number. Every marketing source uses a different phone number. That's one of the benefits of ServiceTitan. We can track really specifically call conversion rates and see what your best source leads is. But a call comes in, goes directly into ServiceTitan. From there, it goes to a customer service person that assesses and hears what's going on. Is this emergency? Is this a home? Is this a business? How bad is it? What's going on? They're really well trained. That information all goes into our system. At that point, if a customer wants to move forward, they are patched over live, real time to dispatch. Dispatch coordinates with them to get a truck out on the road. This is something I learned from the ride alongs. The technicians, when they get in their truck in the morning, they pretty much know their first two appointments. That's just the way
Okay.
this works. When they're out in the field, anything can happen. A 2 hour job can turn into a 4 hour job. A 2 hour job can turn into a 1 hour job. So
Sure. Yeah.
dispatch is using the technology to
All
keep track
fluid.
of all that, even to the degree of who's the best salesperson for this type of thing. So
Mm.
dispatch connects the client. The client, very much like all other systems, gets an email text that says, here's a picture of Joe. He's on his way. Joe walks up to the door, knocks on the door, and first of all asks if now is still a good time. Usually is. It's an emergency service usually.
Yeah.
And they consult with him and they say, hey, this is the way these appointments typically go. I'll do some assessment. I'll try and come back with three options and we'll talk through what's going on. If you like one of those, I'll put my iPad away and do the work, and then I'll come back and you'll sign and off we go. And that's typically the way the sales go. So it does rely heavily on the techs. They are our salespeople and they are also our service providers, which is unique.
It
I was
is
in the
unique. That's why I brought it up, because it's very unique in a lot of these home service or home improvement type businesses. And while in some ways I imagine, and maybe I'm overthinking this, in some ways I imagine it's more difficult to find the right types of people that can do the technician, provide the technician role, do the provide the customer service and that consultative approach to it, and sell, right? But again, with all the systems and SOPs that you guys have in place, the training, the apprenticeship program, and I'm sure, like in any of these businesses, not every hire you make ends up being the right fit for the long term. But when you do get the right people, they can make good money, show them a very clear career track that they have, they stick around. But that part of it's unique, not having to have essentially a separate sales team from the technicians, or, like a lot of these businesses that require some sort of an install, you've got salespeople going out ahead of time. And that's always the biggest differentiator in success, with those businesses that do require some sort of a sales team. The top performing franchisees, they've built a very high performing sales team. The average or underperforming franchisees, typically where they're really lacking is on the sales side. So I think any of these businesses where that piece of it is not as critical, because in this I imagine the emergency uh you know status of a lot of these businesses, pricing is not quite as important, or there's not as much motivation for the client to shop around for different prices and things like that. It's, hey, if you can get it done quick, and I feel like you're going to do a good job, why wait? Let's go
Yeah,
ahead.
we joke and we're like, what kind of boob would you have to be if you went up to somebody and said, I'm here to clean your drain, and they say, after dealing with you, I'm good. You'd have to really stumble over yourself. But we take a lot of seriousness, jokes aside, in the training. It is a soup to nuts thing. And then on the word sell, it's a differentiator, it's a nuance. But I firmly believe, especially when you're talking to the blue collar folks, they're kind of opposed to selling. Their
Yeah,
disc profile is not there. So we
yeah.
make it clear you're not selling. You are consulting. You are looking at a client's situation, and you're saying, here's the three options. You can pick the
Solving
first
problems.
option, you'll probably see me in 3 months. You can pick the second option, you'll probably see me in a year, or you can pick the third option and we'll probably never see each other again. But it's the customer's choice. We're just trying to facilitate the sale. We don't want to oversell. That's not what we do. And our,
Yeah.
our pricing is flat rate pricing. So a drain cleaning in Beverly Hills for our client is going to be the same cost for someone in South Central LA. That's just the way we do it. So it's not a time and materials thing. We look at it as a task, and the same price you get charged is the same price everyone else gets
Is
charged.
that nationwide, or are franchisees able to adjust those flat rates based on labor costs in their area and things like that?
We teach everybody how to calculate their own, and I would say across the nation, everyone's within a band of plus minus 10%. But
Okay.
it's yeah,
Nice.
it's based on their model, their pay rate, their overhead. But we teach them how to fully load it. So when you're charging an hourly rate, you're making money. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
like that. And it does simplify things. Does that also mean that, someone at the sales center, or the call center, are they able to at least give kind of a range of pricing? That way there's no sticker shock when the technician gets there, or do you leave all of that until when the technician comes out?
we found it better to, lack of a better term, sell around that. And we believe that if you give them a number based on somebody sitting in a chair 20 miles away, it's going to come
Yeah.
back at you one way or the other. So we would much rather prefer the customer look at it as the guy's going to come out, he's going to explain what's going on, he'll do a diagnostic, and then you guys can talk about what you need. And that's the best way for us. That's the best way for the customer, in my opinion.
Yeah. Makes sense. But I want to stress to the listeners, the fact that you don't really rely on a separate sales team. That's a big differentiator, in my opinion. If you are looking at a Zoom drain type model compared to a lot of these other kind of home service type franchises out there. And I think there's a lot to like about that, especially for certain types of prospective franchisees that also, don't view themselves as, a salesperson, or just, are not particularly interested in being involved in a business that's going to, have that kind of,
Pressure.
yeah, pressure, right?
Yeah.
But I like the way you guys frame it with these technicians too. Even in my wife and I Shelf Genie franchise, where it's a home improvement, right? And it's a big ticket. Our average job, at least in our local franchise, is, somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000. Right. We have found that our best, and we call our salespeople designers. So we don't, call them sales reps or anything like that. They're designers, but our best designers have always been people that did not have any real prior sales experience. Right. And they
Hmm.
are very, very consultative. Right. And they ask a lot of questions. And, based on the answers to those questions, they're able to solve problems for our clients, and we typically have, some variation of a good, better, best option. And it's kind of a la carte the way we do it. But anyways, the point is, even in something like that, where it's certainly not an emergency, it's not a need to have, it's very much a nice to have, it's a big ticket, it sells at the end of the day, right? We're giving options, pricing, and asking for the business. The best salespeople are not really approaching it like a salesperson. They're approaching it like a consultant that's there to help solve problems. So I think that approach is spot on.
It's all trainable, Wes. We know it's all trainable, and we
Yep.
hire for attitude, and we'll train the skill. Um, and then a slight asterisk on the sales team side. If a technician goes out there and they realize that this is bigger than them, they can clean and clear all day long. But if they've scoped it out, they send a camera down there, and this thing is just corroded and everything else like that. They're going to call to the office and send out what we call an install team. The service engineer shows up in a pickup truck and then assesses everything. That's more of a sales role when you're explaining to people, hey, we're about to put a big excavator in your front yard. And the technician goes on down the road. But
Sure.
for perspective, Philadelphia, like I said, has 16 trucks. In addition to those 16 trucks, we have 3 service teams that are going out and doing that type of work. So
Okay.
three folks that'll go out and consult on those more difficult jobs, and then 4 or 5 more people that'll go out with a different set of equipment, the excavator and a dump truck when needed. But there is a sales side of that, but it's still, listening to the customer. The most important thing in that situation is someone's ears. What is the client really saying? How do you work through that? Jim trained, he put it in documents. We're SOP'd, like I said, but it's training, picking the right people that are willing and open, and listening to the client. You got to respect that you're in their home, and that's what we do.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's a certain type of person that you want representing your company going into someone's home. And so totally understand the, hiring based on attitude and training the actual skills. We'll get right back to the episode, but I wanted to quickly share a free resource with you. If you're curious about franchise ownership and want to learn more about how countless people, including myself, have leveraged franchising as a way to create more freedom for themselves and to take control of their livelihood, I've put together an ebook. It's called Franchise Wealth Creation, and it's the perfect starting point for anyone that's just curious to learn more about this whole franchise thing and how I've helped hundreds of other people navigate all the steps involved in understanding and researching franchising. So click the link in the show notes, fill out a short form. I'll send you the ebook. I think it's a great starting point if you're curious at all about learning more about franchising. All right, let's get back to the episode. So that last point you made kind of is a nice lead into some other things I wanted to ask about. So the first is infrastructure. What type of infrastructure is needed to be in place for a new franchisee launching this business? Um, we've already established a van or a truck and, at least one technician. Do they need to have one of these service experts on board in the beginning? You mentioned excavators and things like that. Are they leasing those just when they need them, or, what do they need to have from an infrastructure standpoint?
Sure, great question. The bigger equipment, think about that as more as 2, 3 years out when the business starts to grow. So it's not anything you start out with. You start out
Okay.
with a Zoom drain truck. Like I said, the nice little truck there. It goes
Yeah.
out. It has everything it needs on it, and the technician is there. So you need a safe place to park it at night. Some people have a space to allow them to bring it in. Some have a fenced yard, and some techs take it home. But that's up to the franchise owner to decide. In terms of space, my learnings recently, I'll share that part for next. But typically, somebody's going to take over a 1,500 square foot space with an office in the front, roll up door, and place for racking and that kind of stuff to keep your jetters and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't need to grow much, for the next year or two after that. It really becomes, like we said, truck math. But I was just in North Carolina, and one of our franchise owners, I don't know if you've seen one of these things, Blueco. Have you seen it? There are several companies that do it, but they are shared workspaces for service teams.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them. I don't know the name Blueco, but I have seen them.
Yeah, three of them are in Raleigh, and I went to go visit our franchise owner, and I don't mind mentioning some of the other brands, but he's in the space. It's an old plumbing building. Plumbing company used to be in there. They share offices upstairs, and they have fenced in areas, chain link fenced areas, quartered off down below where they can keep all their
Yeah.
inventory. But in
Yeah.
that space, think about the benefit of being an entrepreneur just starting out. You're in there with three other folks. The
Yeah.
brands that were in there were Zoom Drain, Mosquito Shield, Resto Pros, and what was the the fourth. Um, Something with name
All franchises, the
all
ones you just
franchises. Almost like a
potentially.
club,
Yeah.
a starter club, an incubator. It was a great thing, and that was
Yeah.
really nice because those costs are low
Yeah. The
with no
costs are a lot
contracts.
lower. It's flexible. This may not be as big of a deal in your business, but like any businesses that you need a loading dock or like a forklift, instead of having to buy all of that, buy a forklift when you're just starting out. Some of these shared, warehousing places will also have like someone on staff full time to receive deliveries for you and stuff. And so, you're sharing that cost with the other companies leasing space instead of having to figure out how to handle that in house, which is a big money saver.
And you
Early.
get the camaraderie of other guys that are facing the exact same challenges you
Yeah.
are, guys and
Yeah.
gals. So Blue Co's one. I'm sure we're going to see more of that stuff popping
Yeah,
up.
it's a great idea. Yeah, it's a great idea and plenty of demand for it. So pretty lean though to start out. It sounds like.
Pretty
Is there much of an inventory component to this? I mean, it sounds like you're dispatching same day majority of the time. So I'm assuming they need to have some parts and stuff on the truck so that they can get out there, assess it, fix it same day. What does the inventory look like?
If you went onto a truck, you would see some disposable items, booties and gloves and things that get torn up when you put the jetters down there, and a small amount of that stuff. But the other, beyond that, it's lengths of pipe that might need to be used to patch something. It's not. It might look like a half a row at Home Depot in the plumbing section. Just basic stuff that you'd need. Um, and then on the truck, because our guys don't want to have to come back,
Yeah.
guys and gals, we actually have a few women technician now, which I'm really excited to see. They'll carry toilet rings, because when you lift a toilet, replace a toilet, you have to put that wax ring down there. They carry those. They often find themselves in the position where the customer says, "Hey, do you happen to have a new garbage disposal?" Because that's a big culprit in drain issues. So, a
Yeah.
couple garbage disposals and toilet rings, and then the service equipment, the jetter, the snakes, the different size snakes, the
Uh-huh.
camera. That's what's on the truck.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So not too
not
extensive because I'm
much.
thinking more about from like a startup capital standpoint, or these franchisees having to invest huge amounts of money in inventory initially, and then it's a matter of, how quickly can we, sell through the inventory. So it sounds like that's not a huge upfront cost for these franchisees. Pretty
Minimal. The
straightforward.
the big cost is the truck. It's
Yeah,
a
sure.
custom truck. It's a well-equipped truck. It is the backbone of what we do. So the truck is the most expensive thing. It's all in the FDD, but you'll
Yeah.
see, a big piece of being the truck and a very small piece being the inventory.
Yeah, makes total sense. So let's talk about your franchisees. What's their role in the business? How is the franchisee ideally spending their time, in their first year, and then how does that maybe change or evolve as their business grows?
One size does not fit all, obviously. So
Yeah.
we have some people that will come through and want to be on the truck first. They want to understand that aspect of the business, and they do. They'll typically step out of that in about month 6, and they'll embark on what their role is. You got to hire and interview and train the apprentices and the technicians to get to replace you if you were on the truck. If you don't go that route, you do have to jump into the hiring pool right off, from day one and find the tech, find your qualifying plumber. You might want to bring in a dispatch manager or office manager, depending on volume, but sometimes that's the same. And then we also have an increased use in our system now of virtual assistants, offshore labor that's trained in the Zoom Drain way. We found a fantastic company that has people that are ready and willing to help franchise owners with bookkeeping tasks and basic admin, that as you're a new owner and you're swimming in all the other different
Yeah.
responsibilities, we found a
Yeah.
nice resource for that. Uh, but
Nice.
then it moves into business development.
Yeah.
There's no person better than the franchise owner to do local business development and engagement. So we put a big, big focus on that. And
Yeah.
then you got to engage with your team. You got to get them, the huddles that go on in a service business at the beginning of the day. And then at the end of the day to debrief and learn. That's a critical role of managing a high performance blue collar team. So the owner has to carry that. That's the culture
Mhm.
builder. So you got to build the culture. You got to know your numbers. But it's you're doing business development and driving a blue collar team that performs really well. That's what a franchise owner should be doing in Zoom Drain.
Any particular background or experience that you're looking for in your franchisees, or is it similar to what we talked about with technicians, where you're just looking, mainly for people with the right attitude and the right motivation?
I learned recently that when all of our candidates took the disc profile, 90% of the ones that bought in our system were Ds. So we're starting to look at the disc profile a little more
Okay.
closely.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
then, yeah, good to know. And the other thing is during the confirmation days and the leadership calls, I make it very clear. I'm on all those calls and in those meetings. Let's have discussions about your willingness and experience doing business development and your
Mhm.
willingness and ability to manage and grow a blue collar team. Because
Yeah.
if you can't do those, we should know that now. If you don't like either aspect of those, then we shouldn't go forward. But it's what we know drives the business. We're looking for people that know that going in and embrace it. Um,
Yeah.
I love working with blue collar teams. I'm sure you've enjoyed it in your career. It's
Yeah.
very enriching and
It
slightly
is.
different than white collar, but
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of differences, obviously, between building and managing a blue collar team versus a white collar team. But for us personally, one of the best parts about the franchises that we've owned has been the teams that we've had a chance to help build and that have helped us build our businesses. And I can tell you, we did not like come into this expecting that to be something that's been as gratifying as it has been. And so in particularly in our shelf genie business, because we've had that one longer, just great relationships, people that have been with us pretty much the entire time. And it's good to just be able to give a good opportunity to people that are willing to work hard where they can make really good money. We've had installers make 6 figures, in a year. Like one of my wife's favorite stories is, one of our installers after, like his first year working with us, his wife texted her and said it was the first year that they didn't have to put Christmas on credit cards,
oh,
like that type of stuff. So obviously those stories are there if you're managing more of a white collar team as well. But for us it's fun, and we don't take ourselves too seriously as a team. But we're very focused on giving our customers a great experience that exceeds their expectations. And sounds like you guys are wired exactly the same way there at Zoom Drain. So we didn't have a chance to get into this at the beginning, but I think this might be a good way to kind of wrap this up today. You've got a pretty extensive background in franchising. Little bit newer to the Zoom Drain team as the brand president. So maybe give us just kind of a quick recap or overview of your background prior to Zoom Drain. And then I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, what was it about Zoom Drain that got you excited to take on the role? And what are you most excited about for Zoom Drain going forward?
Great question. Yeah, since graduating college, and I won't date myself, but it was a long time ago. I've been in franchising. I've been in prior to joining Zoom Drain. I've only worked for three different franchise systems, brand leaders, all of them. Pip Printing, which was an old quick printing franchise, 7 or 8 years through there, learning all the different departments. From there, I went to California Closets for about a decade, vice president of operations on the corporate side, and then 5 years running the sixth largest franchise, which was the Bay Area franchise. And boy, I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah.
After that, joined a commercial cleaning franchise system called Vanguard Cleaning Systems. And in my tenure there, we went from about 40 million in system-wide revenues up to about 375. So brings me to Zoom Drain 5 months ago. I'm thrilled. It was I didn't jump. I took a year and really figured out what I wanted to do. And
Okay.
this one, I kissed some frogs along the way. Trust me. This one just felt right at every level, especially the team that Jim Crenity left in place, all of the resources that he's left in place, the technologies, and then the franchise base. We have 53 existing franchise owners right now. I'm thrilled with every single one of them. So, what am I most excited about? Is I'm excited to hit the launch pad, the launch button. The stage is set, the foundation is built. Now it's all about development and training and building relationships and strengthening relationships with franchise owners. And in my time in franchising, I know that's what it's all about. These are
Yeah.
our folks where I joke often with folks in the industry. Our franchise agreement is longer than most marriages last. So, you know, let's just keep it in perspective. So let's be good partners. Let's be fair. Let's communicate responsibly. Let's keep our heads focused on what matters, and we're all going to succeed. We're all on the same team. That's what I'm most excited about. And Jim, who's still in the business, but he's stepping back as you expect a founder to at this point. Jim left a fantastic business in place. For someone like me coming in, I couldn't have asked for a better foundation.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Well said. And I think a recurring theme throughout this conversation has been, finding people that align, with your values, with your culture, that have the right type of attitude. And yeah, it sounds like you're stepping into an awesome brand where there's a incredible foundation, but tons of room to continue growing with the right type of people. And yeah, we were chatting about this before we started recording that, there's a lot of franchises out there that are very established, great track record, virtually impossible to find good territory for. And then there's a lot of emerging, very, very young franchises that don't yet have much of a track record, but they have plenty of territory available, right? There's not as many of these, options that are kind of somewhere in the middle. But I think Zoom Drain is one of those. And in my opinion, you guys are kind of at that sweet spot right now where you've got enough tenure, enough of a foundation and footprint with your 53 franchisees, very systemized as you've described, but still a lot of great territory available out there. So, in closing, anything you want to leave the audience with before we wrap this one up?
Yeah. First of all, again, Wes, thanks for having me. But two closing thoughts. I think it's a new term. Let's call it a new term here today. We are an emerged franchising system. We're no
I like,
longer emerging. We have emerged, and
I
we're
like,
ready to go now. So that's one thing. And then lastly, I think it's a great way to sum it up, as you mentioned values. Our core values are very simple. It's an acronym for the word GROW, GROW. We focus on grit. We focus on responsibility. We like optimism, which is the O, and a willingness to lock arms together and grow. So those are the Zoom Drain core values. We live them every day, and we're looking for people that want to work with us. So please send your good candidates our way. We will take very good care of them, Wes.
Love it. Love it. Well, hey, man, this was awesome. We'll have to do round 2 at some point once you've had a little more time in the saddle, and it'll be exciting to get an update of where Zoom Drain is at. But for those listening, if any of this piqued your interest and you'd like to learn more about Zoom Drain, see if territory is available in your area, reach out to me and I'm happy to get you connected. But Jim, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. And if there's a Zoom Drain in your area and you lose a diamond earring or clog the toilet up, now you know who to call. But thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Wes.